I vividly remember the day I left my hometown. It was a crisp autumn morning, and the air was filled with the scent of fallen leaves. I packed everything I valued into my old pickup truck, determined to start fresh, far from the painful memories. Leaving wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Betrayal and deceit had ruined my life, and the only way to heal was to distance myself from those who hurt me. After hours of driving, I found a quaint, sleepy town. That seemed perfect for a new beginning. The locals were friendly, the pace was slow, and the town had a charming appeal. I discovered a small, rundown gas station and garage that had been on the market for years. Seeing its potential, I made a low offer, which was surprisingly accepted. This property became the foundation for rebuilding my life and business. One Saturday afternoon, I sat quietly in my favorite tavern, enjoying the peace. This tavern became my sanctuary shortly after moving here. I bought the local gas station and repair shop at a bargain price. Seeing its untapped potential, the previous owner was eager to sell after it sat on the market for 2 years. It was the perfect place for a fresh start, helping me leave my past behind. The first thing I did was build a large retail store facing the gas station, to supply the town after the only grocery store closed at 7 o'clock in the evening. I moved the tank so the pumps were visible from the store, which left plenty of parking spaces for customers. The store was busiest from 7 o'clock in the evening to midnight, and was open 247. The garage at the back of the lot was open from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, 5 days a week, with special projects on Saturdays. Although the bar was initially upset when we started selling basic liquor, it eventually provided a good income and created needed jobs in the community. The business became very successful after restructuring the store's internal merchandising, thanks to a woman I hired. It quickly repaid the equity loan, and required doubling the staff due to high demand. On Friday and Saturday nights, we sold lots of junk food to bar patrons. And on Sundays, we sold plenty of cold beer at reasonable prices. I was sipping a double shot of Jack Daniels with ice, water, and lemon, having just finished replacing the steering column in an old truck, a family heirloom. It took me 8 months to find the part and fabricate some fixtures. His family had driven this truck since the 40s, and he had no plans to stop. If he could, he would be buried in it. 4 to 7 was the best time at the bar, since most regulars had already had dinner. In a couple of hours, the place would be filled with a musical crowd. Farmers brought their daughters for after-work fun. In my 6.5 years here, I built a solid reputation and made many friends. The locals looked out for each other and kept me informed of anything unusual. I came to the bar once a week, always on Saturdays, for a drink before heading home. It was my quiet time to gather my thoughts. I saw them walk in and wished I hadn't. They ruined a perfect day. The woman was my ex's twin sister, and the young man with her was once my son. It brought back memories I didn't want. I realized you can't see evil when you live with it. The boy had grown up and looked more like his biological father. This proved the truth always comes out. Why were they looking for me now? They chatted with the bartender, showed him a picture, and then left. I was grateful for my long, unkempt hair, beard, and mustache, which made me look different, especially since I had lost weight. No one noticed the message I sent, which simply said, "Come home when can." About a half hour later, the bartender came over and sat at my table. "What did they want, Tom?" I asked. "They wanted to give you a message," Tom replied. "They heard a rumor you live here and came to check it out," he said. "They said a woman named Willa is dying of cancer and wants to make peace," he continued. "I asked for your picture, pretending not to recognize your name," he added. "Who are they, and what do they want?" I asked. I took out a cigarette, ripped off the filter, and lit it. "The woman is my ex-wife's twin sister," I said. "The young man is my ex-wife's illegitimate son, whom she passed off as mine for years," I continued. "Based on your experience, do you think they were telling the truth?" I asked. From their body language, I'd say they're partly honest but hiding something big, Tom replied. I nodded. My ex-wife and her sister had always been deceptive, appearing genuine while betraying me. Tom went back behind the bar. My thoughts drifted to nearly 7 years ago when I left, promising not to return for another 7 years. They laughed at me, thinking I was a fool. They learned a hard lesson that day, because they never saw or heard from me directly again. They didn't believe how serious or hurt I was. They thought I was just mad at their jokes. They had no idea that a few weeks earlier, I discovered our youngest child was my brother-in-law's son. That revelation started my journey to this moment. A family member who had seen Willa and Tammy, the evil twins, betray me too often, provided the proof. She called them black witches practicing pure evil. Earlier that week, before I left, we discovered a new insurance policy on me, with double indemnity for accidental death, totaling $1 million if I died. A wise old woman told me to flee. When I left for my work truck, they had no clue it was already packed, with everything I wanted from my 16-year marriage. I drove away without looking back, and ended up 2 states away. Part of this was my fault, since I got Willa pregnant when she was 16 and I was 18. My family convinced me to marry her, and soon we had 2 more kids. They thought it was hilarious. Willa told our daughters, "Your father will come back when he cools off. He needs to regain his sense of humor," she added. A few hours later, a sheriff's car arrived at the house. Willa greeted him at the door. "Are you Mrs. Rye?" he asked. When she said yes, he replied, "Ma'am, you've just been served." She laughed, thinking it was a joke. But when she opened the envelope, she realized I had dissolved our marriage. Without a second thought, the grandmother told me she was shocked. My attorney listed all our assets and liabilities, including a DNA report showing the affair lasted a year. The divorce petition included details, receipts, and photos from their hotel meetings. In the envelope was a letter revealing I was suing her husband for child support, infidelity, and defamation. Their laughter stopped. The joke was no longer on me. I had the last laugh. Their joke was that I was only good for making money. Everything I touched seemed to turn to gold. So Willa and the kids were spoiled and never needed anything. Later, Willa found out I had sold 3 of our businesses, paid off all debt, and sold our 2 apartment buildings for a profit. I canceled all credit cards, removed my name from bank accounts, and signed over my half of the house to her. I took half our worth in cash, reducing our cash flow from $10,000 a month to 0. Willa's sister learned the cost of using me. My attorney froze their assets before they got the subpoena, leaving them broke. After the divorce, my attorney called Willa in and reimbursed her for a quarter of their losses. "Why would he do that?" she asked. My lawyer replied, "For him, it was never about the money. It was about principle," he continued. "He hopes this money gives you a chance to start over and learn from your experience," he said. Willa refused to agree to the divorce without speaking to me, leaving us legally separated but not divorced. I had no need to talk to someone who lied to me for years. She had to work for the first time, learning that money disappears quickly without income. I had my attorney forward important mail to a rented FedEx mailbox, which was then sent to my work address weekly. I did this knowing that Willa and her sister loved to manipulate and plan revenge. I knew they would eventually try to get back at me. It wasn't a question of if, but when. Their family didn't believe in leaving things be, and my absence would upset them. The longer this went on, the worse their payback would be. They wouldn't let it go easily. Until now, I thought I had succeeded in escaping. With Tammy's appearance, I realized their game wasn't over. I finished my drink and left through the back door, in case they were watching the front. I crossed the empty lot behind the house and walked around the block to my pickup. As I was unlocking the door, a man approached and said, "You're a hard man to find, Mr. Arthur Sethra." "No doubt," I said. "How do you know that?" I asked. My name is Peter Edwards, your oldest daughter Connie is my wife, he replied. That could be a blessing or a curse, I said. If she acts like her mother, I added. So, why are you here? I asked. I came looking for you, he said. Some things need to be settled, he continued. That would be the case if your mother-in-law would just sign the divorce agreement, I said. What divorce agreement? Peter asked in surprise. I told him to follow me. We drove through town, then onto a long driveway leading to a farmhouse. Inside my home office, I showed him the divorce papers. And let him make copies. Peter didn't need to know that I didn't live there. I'd built it for the grand dame, hoping she would eventually leave her old home. Peter was a pleasant-looking, confident, and seemingly educated young man. I wondered if he was who he claimed or part of Willa and Tammy's scheme. He used my double Wi-Fi to download files onto his laptop. All important records were stored there, with a master copy in a safety deposit box. He was interested in a copy of the sheriff's report Willa signed when served with the summons. He managed to print a damaging letter from Willa's attorney to mine, acknowledging the agreed property division, but refusing to finalize the divorce without my in-person meeting. While Peter worked, I observed his expressions, and saw that he was learning new information. My paperwork contradicted what he believed. Do you think Connie knows? Peter asked. That's something you'll have to find out, I replied. Here's a question for you, I said. Is Willa really dying of cancer? I asked. Who told you that? Peter asked. Tammy and Seth told a bartender that today, I said. But I know Willa is fine, Peter replied. She's in a common law marriage with her former lawyer, he said. And is expecting his second child, he added. She's the one who asked me to find you to start the divorce, he continued. She claims it's necessary so she can remarry, he said. He called his wife and put it on speakerphone so I could hear. Connie, did you know your mother lied about the divorce not being finalized? Peter asked. What are you talking about? Connie replied. Mom told us Dad abandoned us and cleaned out whatever was left before leaving town, she said. If it wasn't for our stepfather, we wouldn't have survived, she added. I'm sending you the legal file, said Peter. Read it and contact me as soon as possible, he continued. While they talked, I grabbed 2 bottles of Bud, opened them, and put one in front of him. Why didn't you tell my daughter you found me? I asked. Connie and I have only been married 2 years, Peter said. And we just had a son 3 months ago, he continued. For now, I'm not going to tell anyone I found you, he said. Everyone thinks I'm investigating a case, he added. He showed me his badge, confirming he was a police officer for the Paradise Police Department. I checked the department's webpage on my laptop, proving he was telling the truth. It was the accident report from a few months ago that led me to you, Peter explained. He wrote a report on your disappearance, which was forwarded to the wanted list, he said. The insurance company informed me of the ruling in your favor, he continued. So, why didn't you tell Connie you found me? I asked again. After reviewing your file, it became clear something else might be going on, Peter said. I wondered what happened to the $250,000 cash Willa was supposed to get, he continued. Along with the house deed, and why are they all lying about what really happened, he asked. Yeah, sounds like I've been fed lies too, I said. As his phone rang. It's my wife, I'll put it on speaker, Peter said. Please keep it down, he added. Hi, honey, Connie said. Where did you get all this from? Is it true we've been lied to for years, she asked. Seth doesn't know his origins, and neither do I, she continued. My sister Karen will be shocked, she said. Mom chastised her for defending Dad, they don't speak anymore, she added. This story contradicts everything we've been told, she said. Mom and Auntie gave Dad no choice, she continued. They've been manipulating his life for years, she said. What bothers me is that the divorce isn't finalized because Mom won't sign it, she added. What's really going on? She asked. It's true, I got the information from your father's lawyer's widow, Peter said. I had to go out of state to find her, he continued. Her husband kept duplicates of all his records, he said. From the paperwork, it looks like your mother was served with a divorce petition the same day he left, he added. I wrote a note for Connie to talk to her great-aunt Josie, if she was still alive. Peter nodded. Pete, it's crucial to find my father now, Connie said. He deserves to be free of Mom and her schemes, she continued. At least to finalize the divorce, she said. What happened to the money she got, she asked. Why did she have to sell the house if it was hers, she continued. The more I look into this, the more I wonder what's going on, she said. And why she planned to sue him for desertion as soon as she found him, she added. Ask my sister to watch our son a bit longer, Peter said. And you talk to Aunt Josie about what we found, he continued. Maybe she'll open up, he said. This must stay between us for now, he added. It looks like there may be serious fraud, he said. Why has your mother been slandering your father for years, he asked. I'll need to talk to the district attorney, he continued. The $250,000 cash disappeared once it reached your father's lawyer, he said. Don't tell your sister yet, he added. If the DA investigates, it's best no one else knows, he said. I got up to get us some servings, giving Peter privacy until he finished his call. Why do you want Connie to talk to Aunt Josie? Peter asked. Josie gathered all the information about Willa and George's affair, I said. She never married but watched over the family like a mother, I continued. Raising her only daughter, I said. Being a single mom changed her perspective, I added. She thought Tammy and Willa conspired and used George and me, I said. But their ultimate goal is unclear, I continued. If it's true, why? Peter asked. Aunt Josie's granddaughter, Jody, wants her to move in with her, I said. But Josie insists on waiting until the truth comes out, I continued. Jody visits with her 2 sons, I said. Jody leads a very withdrawn life, I added. Socializing with Willa and Tammy takes a toll on everyone, I said. They've used people most of their lives, I continued. It wasn't until Josie gave me the material that I realized this, I said. Do you want to ask me about your children before I leave? Peter asked. Not until I know you're who you say you are, I replied. This could be another part of their game, I said. Look into the sudden death of my lawyer, I continued. Because if she's planning to sue me, what makes her think she can win? I asked. Peter's face turned white, realizing what kind of people he had married. We decided to trust each other enough to exchange numbers. He promised to keep me informed. I walked him to the door, shook his hand, and said goodbye. After he left, I cleaned up, locked the apartment, and took the long way home to ensure I wasn't followed, giving me time to think. My life had improved since putting the past behind me. Did I want to relive it all again? Knowing Willa and Tammy, I had to prepare for what was coming, as they'd go to any length for money. As soon as I walked through the door, 2 little kids grabbed my legs. I picked up my 3 and 4-year-olds, the apples of my eye. Just like their mother, I felt blessed to have all 3 of them in my life. My wife, Jody, called out that dinner was almost ready. So I went to wash up. Over dinner, I told her about my day since closing the store. I couldn't have imagined my life turning out like this. When I left Paradise almost 7 years ago, I promised my grandmother Josie that I would keep in touch. And I did, calling her every Sunday. About a year and a quarter ago, she called me for help. Her granddaughter, Jody, needed to escape a failed marriage and find a safe place to start over. Jody, 10 years younger than me, had no children and lived on an army base out of state. I didn't know much about her, but I owed Josie and was glad to help. It took me a week to find and partially furnish a 2-bedroom apartment for her in a small town, which was nearly impossible without a friend's help. When I arrived to pick up Jody, she had quit her job, emptied her bank accounts, and packed her bags. Her husband was about to enlist in the army after his last 2 training exercises. I quietly arrived around 8 o'clock in the evening with a rented U-Haul truck, with the help of a few neighbors and friends. We moved everything she wanted into the truck. I left her town in under 4 hours, refusing to say where I was from for safety. As we drove back, Jody and I started to get to know each other. Late that night, she got a call from her grandmother. I smiled when she said, "Grandma, Art picked me up. You could have warned me he's a wild bushman who might look half decent if he cleaned up," she added. The next day, Josie contacted Jody's attorney to have all her legal documents sent to my FedEx box. Jody warned that her soon-to-be ex-husband could cause trouble, so I took steps to protect her. Jody then took over managing my store, and proved to be an excellent manager, making successful changes and prioritizing customer needs. Her personality attracted many new clients, and she established a well-organized, problem-free staff. Josie had to get a restraining order against Jody's ex, due to his constant threats. He was dishonorably discharged, and moved back to my old hometown, thinking Jody would be there. To keep unwanted attention at bay, Jody wore a diamond ring, which helped her adjust to her new life. She handled banking and bookkeeping, gaining everyone's acceptance. As I had introduced her, Jody's honesty and personality made her wonderful, and her long black hair was often brushed from her face. When asked about her ring, she replied, "I'm sure you'll figure it out," sparking rumors that she was my future mail-order bride. She started bringing me lunch on Saturdays, as I often forgot to eat while working, resulting in weight loss. Our relationship grew naturally. Everyone assumed we were a couple, and Josie kept us updated on events back home. We became curious when we learned Jody's ex was friendly with Tammy. The day Jody's divorce was finalized, our relationship deepened. We celebrated with friends at the local bar, sharing our first kiss during a slow dance under dim lights. 6 months later, we moved in together. While the kids were bathing, I shaved off my beard and mustache, leaving only stubble. The kids watched in amazement. I soaked my face and theirs with the bowl and brush Jody bought me for Christmas. Much to their delight, Jody walked in, surprised to see the kids giggling with soapy faces as I finished shaving. "It looks like what Daddy would look like with a clean face," Jody teased. "Should I cut his hair too?" she asked. Both toddlers eagerly said, "Yes." I laughed and said, "I'll let the barber handle that on Monday." "No, I'll do it myself before you change your mind," Jody insisted. After drying off the kids and getting them dressed for bed, they sat at the kitchen table and watched Jody cut my hair. By the time she finished, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. I told Jody she did a great job. She sent me to shower off the loose hair while she cleaned up. During this, her grandmother called to say Connie had just left. Jody believed her grandmother was ready to confront the family, straightening things out. Connie learned that my 3 children were supposed to receive $600 each per month from annuities I had set up for child support, but they hadn't received any of it. The next week, I endured jokes from everyone about my new look. People asked Jody if she had to blackmail me into joining normal society. Jody humorously replied that I had promised to bathe at least 3 times a week. Most got the joke, some didn't. It was interesting to see how people acted when they believed they were superior. Bird of Paradise informed me that I would be sued in civil court for child abandonment, desertion, and back child support. Jody and I found this amusing, thinking a judgment would lead to a collection service trying to find me. When the mailman broke the news, he also found it funny. His boss and the DA hired an attorney to represent me, using my situation to piece things together. Peter estimated that Willa and Tammy had stolen over $48,000 from each of our children. They re-examined my former attorney's sudden death, turning it into an open criminal case. Jody's ex-husband became a person of interest. If the findings were true, Willa and Tammy faced 7 to 10 years in prison. And Willa's former attorney, now her common-law husband, could be disbarred. The lawyer they hired for me would be paid by them, and I needed to stay hidden to help build a stronger case. We had a few weeks of peace. Then Josie called Sunday night, informing us that paperwork would be filed on Monday. She emailed me everything she had collected over 7 years, including notarized statements, videotaped conversations, and names of attorneys for a countersuit. A $2 million accident insurance policy caught my eye, explaining some missing money. Jody found out it had been purchased 6 months before I left. We spent half the night forwarding information to the DA, certain this was a setup to lure me back. The next morning, Jody called the recommended attorneys and picked one, sending them everything along with a retainer. As soon as Willa's team filed the lawsuit, I would serve them before receiving it. On Friday morning, Jody called me. Josie was on her way with guests, having left Thursday night and stayed overnight at a hotel. This indicated things were heating up. Jody and I decided to close the store on Saturday and have a long weekend with family. Peter was riding with Connie and their son. All Connie knew was that they were visiting Jody. Around 7 o'clock in the evening, we saw a Ford Explorer and Escape pull up in the driveway. 4 adults got out of the cars. Jody noticed my concern and took my hand. My truck was hidden in the garage, so no one knew I was there. "Who's that with Josie?" Jody asked. "That's Peter, his wife Connie holding their baby, and Karen, my second oldest," I replied. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," I said. Jody, holding our youngest, opened the front door. We all came out to greet our guests. Karen burst into tears upon seeing me. I handed my son to his great-grandmother and hugged Karen tightly. Connie handed her son to Peter and joined us. My daughters had grown into lovely ladies, and seeing them together was unforgettable. "Good to see you again, Peter," I said, shaking his hand. After introductions, Jody served a huge dinner. Beef shoulder, mashed potatoes, gravy, scones, Yorkshire pudding, string beans, and hot apple pie for dessert. After the kids settled, we started discussing everything. "First of all, Art, is it okay if I call you Dad?" Peter asked. I nodded. "Then, Dad, the DA believes Jody's ex's car was involved in your lawyer's accident," Peter explained. "We're doing a paint comparison with the current owner's car," he said. "If it matches, he'll be charged with manslaughter," he continued. "The fire that destroyed his office the same night was treated as arson," he said. "He was seen in the background on video," he added. "Since Willa and her attorneys sealed the divorce papers," he continued, "they think there are no documents to prove what happened," he said. "They filed a lawsuit against you this week," he added. Jody looked at me and burst into tears. "I always thought you were overprotective when you moved me here," she said. "But now I see you weren't," she continued. "I thought your questions to my grandmother were excessive," she said. "But now I realize you needed to understand who we were dealing with before making a plan," she added. "Willa and Tammy received your lawsuit on Thursday," Josie said. "They must have realized I was communicating with you," she continued. "We feared they'd start tormenting me, so we came here quickly," she said. "Grandma, we got your house ready," Jody said. "It's finished, so you just need clothes," she continued. "I brought most of it in the car," Josie said. "Connie will ship the rest, including antiques," she continued. "I gave her power of attorney to sell the house and furniture," she said. "It was time to leave paradise," she added. "I'll drive back with Peter and Connie," I said. "And rent a truck to haul everything out," I continued. "It's time to see if our suspicions are correct," I said. "What suspicions?" asked Peter. "The lawsuit against me is a ploy to lure me out," I said. "With $2 million in accidental death insurance," I continued. "It's clear my former attorney's death was a test," I said. Peter, Connie, Karen, and Josie's faces turned white as they realized the truth. "They were planning your death, Dad," Connie said. "You knew it before you left town," she added. "I had a good idea at the time, but even my lawyer didn't believe me," I replied with a broad smile. "He experienced firsthand that I was right," I said. Peter excused himself to make important calls. This gave my daughters, my wife, and me time to catch up. Jody found pictures of me from when we first met. Both daughters admitted they wouldn't have recognized me. When Peter returned, everyone fell silent. Willa and Tammy are in custody now, Peter said. Brad has confessed to everything, he continued. Including his initial plan to eliminate his father, he said. He'll be charged with arson and manslaughter, he added. When he testifies in the witch trials, he continued. Tammy and Willa face 3 counts of grand larceny, he said. 2 counts of conspiracy to commit liquidation, and fraud, he added. The district attorney is meeting with the divorce judge who handled your father's case, he said. To expedite the finalization of your divorce, he continued. Peter, are you saying that Art and I can finally get married? Asked Jody. Trying to process what she had heard. The DA took the papers to the judge, Peter explained. Along with Dad's original divorce papers, he said. He hopes the judge, being fully informed, will waive Willa's signature requirement, he continued. The waiting period, and issue the divorce certificate, he added. Jody, I said. I think I'd better buy you a proper engagement ring today, I continued. And find a fine proposal, I added. Everyone murmured at my remark. Tears welled up in Jody's eyes. She had always believed we would do it. But this was something she hadn't expected. Before we left, Mom and Dad made us promise to come over for dinner. Jody and I busied ourselves packing until about 5:30. Then we headed to my parents' house for dinner. Mom and Dad had a lot of questions. Jody shared how I had saved her from a failed marriage, thanks to her grandmother. Then she talked about getting her first job and where it led. We were still enjoying their company when Peter and Connie arrived. With my divorce certificate, it was good to know that I was now free. When Jody had a chance to talk, she bragged about our children and our life together. My mom said, we should have a wedding before you both get back. That's when my father got Peter's attention. Grabbing a glass of fresh beer each, we followed him to the den. Because we couldn't get a word in edgewise. When word got out that Tammy had been arrested, he said. People started calling with more information, he continued. Half of the DA's staff had to help us, he said. Turns out, what we knew was just scratching the surface of what Tammy and Willa were up to, he added. Now it looks like the mayor will go down with them, he said. And what's going to happen to Willa's common-law husband? I asked out of curiosity. How involved was he in all of this? I continued. He'll probably be disbarred, Peter said. But he'll be involved in raising their children, he continued. Nothing we found links him to the witches, he added. Has anyone notified Aunt Josie? Connie asked. Jody's dad wears a size 6.5 ring, in case you were wondering, she added. A few minutes later, Peter and I were on our way to the mall, where he bought Connie a set. Knowing Jody's taste, I bought a 3-ring engagement set. When we returned, we were pleased to find that they didn't know we had left. I was on the phone with Josie when Karen and her boyfriend showed up. The house was full, and we all moved into the living room. The men had to bring chairs from the kitchen. Dad told Jody to sit in his chair. This let my mom know something was up. So she watched the scene with eagle eyes. There was silence in the room as I walked over and knelt down to ask my common-law spouse to legally become my wife. I caught her off guard. Of course, she said. The party went on. My father proudly said, I need to catch up on almost 7 years of drinking with my son. And Jody and Art, your engagement is the best way to start, he added. Peter had to drive Jody and me back to Josie's. A lot of stress and worry were relieved. Friday, we went to City Hall to pick up our license. Jody found out she could fit into Connie's wedding dress. Jack agreed to be my best man. Karen became Jody's maid of honor. The DA agreed to perform the ceremony. I had to buy a suit at Macy's. There was no way my future wife was going to let me marry her in blue jeans. On Sunday afternoon, in my parents' backyard, with the entire family present, we said our vows. To everyone's admiration, even the twins' father was there. We told everyone we didn't want any gifts. But my former father-in-law handed me an envelope. Colin, this is not a wedding gift, it's your early inheritance, he said with a smile. The rest of my estate will go to your daughters, he added. I slipped the envelope into my suit and forgot about it for the rest of the day. Everyone videotaped the ceremony and texted it to Aunt Josie. Someone asked where we were going on our honeymoon. Jody's response was, after everything we've been through. Once Grandma gets settled in the new house, she continued. Our honeymoon will be a week in Florida and a week in California, she said. Enjoying Disney with the kids, she added. Because without family, we wouldn't be where we are today, she concluded. Before we headed home the next day, I handed Jody an envelope. Inside was a bank promissory note for $100,000 with a note. It read, "Thank you for helping to fix karma. I always thought the twins liquidated their mother," it continued. I will enjoy watching them get the reward they deserve for their deeds, it said. And so will my granddaughters, it concluded. Jody put the envelope in her purse without saying anything to anyone. After hugging my daughters and parents, Jody and I climbed into the U-Haul. We drove home, finally free of the past.